finds this, because I'm having a hard time with it. What do you say, Jim?
Well, I'm gonna try some here. Just a minute.
So, if you guys don't know, this is Jim.
Give me a second here.
Jim from Hogtide Rising. Not Rising.
Okay, here we go. Oh, there we go. Live.
Yep.
Update on an amazing trip.
Yeah, so apparently we're in the apex of the vortex here on my property, and yeah,
I think we're.
it was
I think it's
difficult
all working now.
for everybody to watch and keep up. So yeah, but if you're here now, then you're here now, and that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So what we were talking about anyway, we mentioned Jim's channel, which is Hogtide Rising.
Hogtide Rising.
You want to tell them how to spell that again?
HOGTIDE. And then second word rising. And you got to make sure that you spell tide like in rising tide of the ocean. Because if you do it the other way and put in hog TIED, you end up with some porn bondage site. Oh, shit,
That's freaking awesome.
I don't know this for a fact, but that's what I've been told. So it's hog tide.
So Jim was just on an amazing trip. If you guys didn't see his video 3 months or so ago, there was a video on a tour on his ambulance. He did an ambulance build in Canada at, what is it called again?
Polar Mobility Research in Calgary, Alberta.
They did an amazing job on the build. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. Everything, we cover everything on his ambo in that thing, and it's amazing. And he recently, so I met... Jim came through and we just discussed in the last live that wasn't working. So here we are again on our third try.
I think it's the third
try. God. So we talked at like 12 minutes about stuff, and now we're kind of trying to recap. But so he had it all done up there in his shakedown run. He came down. We discussed it was for his free dinner he wanted to get at. And the Hideaway.
I wanted to get to the Hideaway Bar and Grill in Cave Creek, Arizona, because every year they have a free Christmas dinner with turkey and this and that and all. Well, I don't think it was turkey this year. I believe it was ham this year. But anyway, it's a full-on Christmas dinner, and it's all free. You know, they ask or encourage you to tip the serving staff, which is never an issue, and then if you want drinks, of course, it's a cash bar. And it's a highlight, and it's a lot of fun, and the biking community definitely looks forward to it. So I wanted to be here for that, and I made it by the skin of my teeth. I literally camped in Page at a truck stop in Page on Christmas Eve. And I woke up and then drove to Cave Creek and just made it in time for Christmas dinner.
You mentioned that there was a mishap right when you left, right? So Montana?
Helena, yeah. One of the wheels fell off the trailer. Blew the tire and shredded it and wrapped all the cords around the axle of the trailer. It was a hell of a thing. And of course, these problems never happen in daylight. They always happen at dark, after dark, on a busy interstate in December.
Was there snow on the ground, or was it?
Yeah, sorta. Not a lot.
Not a lot.
But there was enough to make it interesting. But fortunately, I was able to get a mobile mechanic to come out and get it so I could tow the trailer back to Helena, and then stayed in the mobile mechanic's backyard, parked there for the night. The next morning we got up and ran around all over Helena for parts.
That's awesome that he let you do that.
Got new wheels and new brakes and all that sort of stuff, and away we went.
And then he went, like you said, to the Hideaway for that dinner, and then he ended up coming up here and hanging out here on the property for a little bit.
In beautiful Chino Valley.
Chino Valley. I call it Cochino Valley now that I'm here. Just north of Prescott, Arizona. Prescott, but we call it Prescott. And that was 3 months ago, 3.5 months ago. Now we're here sipping some brews again and some tequila. Jim is a tequila connoisseur of sorts. to sipping tequila, mind you.
Siete Leguas.
That's
Fine
nice.
sipping tequila. It's got my personal stamp of approval.
And we partook in too much tequila the first time he was here.
Absolutely.
And so anyway, he was here for a few days, or a week or something like that, right?
It was just no, because I was in Wickenburg for New Year's.
Yeah, so like 4 days or something,
Yeah,
three
four
or
or
four
five
days.
days. Yeah,
Yeah.
almost a week.
And then he went down there with a friend. Did you have any mishaps down there, Wickenburg, or?
Well,
We kind of had the bike issue here.
yeah, the battery was dead.
Yeah,
It
so
was hooped. It turned out that the battery on the trike hadn't been changed since the bike was on the showroom floor in 2015. So that was a 10-year-old battery, and it just cratered. So uh, I went to a mechanic, Billy, in Phoenix, and he did a battery test, electrical test, etc., and said, "Yep, definitely the battery shot." So I went and got a new one, and then my friend Bob and I tried to put it in Wickenburg, and we didn't do a very good job. we didn't do a good job at all. The bike has a pingle shifter. It's a trike with a pingle shifter, and the reason it's a pingle shifter is because I'm an amputee. I lost my left leg above the knee in a motorcycle accident in 2019. So I can't heel and toe shift a Harley. So I've got this nice electric air assist pingle shifter, so I shift gears with buttons on the handle. But that's
it's
all
pretty
back.
sweet.
It is very sweet, but it's all hooked into the battery, and when we put the battery in, we didn't get that hooked up properly, and we didn't know what the problem was. So we took it to Bobby's Territorial Harley in Yuma. Went down there right after New Year's, but unfortunately they were booked solid for 10 days. I couldn't even get the trike in. And when I finally did get it in, they got it done in a day, and I had an oil change done and a couple of other things, and everything was good.
That's awesome.
The trike was running, the ambo was running, the trailer seemed to be running, everything was running well. Had developed a leak in the water tank, and I have these custom made aluminum water tanks, and developed a leak, but it wasn't too serious.
And that was in Yuma. You noticed it was leaking.
Yeah, noticed it was leaking in Yuma, and so.
And then is that where you crossed the border into Mexico?
I crossed the border.
Oh, we're looking up that town. That's what I was supposed to be doing.
I crossed the border at Algodones. Had to go there anyway to pick up a pair of some glasses that I had ordered a week before. So I crossed at Algodones and made it about 2 hours.
Oh, Blythe is what we're.
Blythe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this hippie hole is in a just outside a natural area, natural preserve. Probably shows. Oh, cripes.
Let me try to see if I can put it in the hippie hole, see if it comes up.
Well, or it'll come up if you put it into. If you got iOverlander there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do it on iOverlander, and hippie hole definitely comes up because that's.
Oh, I don't have it. It's on the phone we're streaming on.
Oh.
So it's on the Colorado River, which is the Arizona-California border in Blythe on California side, right?
Yeah, I'll show you. I'll find it here. Keep talking.
I don't know what to talk about. It's your story. Something about Algodones.
Anyway,
Hippie holes, all musty and hairy.
That was a great place to camp.
Oh, a campsite. Never mind.
Yeah, great place to get camp. I got stuck going into a campsite that wasn't so great. I got stuck in the sand, but there was a guy there, and I got a 12,000-pound winch on this ambulance, and this was an opportunity to see if the winch would actually was strong enough to pull me and the trailer out of sand. But I needed an anchor.
Yeah.
So this guy moved his 4x4 down and locked it up nice and solid, and I winched to that and got out. So that was pretty exciting.
Easy.
Oh yeah, it was pretty easy. It was good.
Cake.
Yeah. So that was the hippie hole, though. If you're ever not in that area, it's on the Colorado River, and it's south of Blythe, and it's just off a fairly good highway. The highway, basically to Yuma. Yeah.
I love hippie holes.
So So then the day after I got the trike out of way back from Bobby's Territorial Harley, I headed south. And by the time I got to the border and did what I had to do and all that sort of stuff, it was fairly late when I crossed the border. It was about 3 or 4. And I wasn't trying to make it all that far, but I made it 2 hours, and then damned if the wheel didn't fall off the trailer again. And this is even better because instead of being on an interstate, I was on a narrow Mexican road, not a primary highway, with like 6-inch shoulder.
Yeah.
And of course, it was after dark, and I'm stranded on this highway waiting for roadside assistance. And they finally got to me around 10 o'clock, 10:30, and got the wheel changed and everything. And I was literally 1.6 kilometers, which is about a mile out of town, out of this neat little town, like Delta, town of Delta. So I went in and found the tire shop and overnight camped right beside them. And the next morning they changed the wheel, but I had a bent spindle.
Oh man.
So I made it to San Felipe, and we looked around, and finally I found a guy that could do the welding of the aluminum water tank and fix the trailer jack that I had screwed up, and he also tried to straighten the spindle. And while I was running around to get money to pay him, I had to go to the bank. The ambulance started overheating, and the welder couldn't do anything, but he knew a mechanic that might be able to help. And so the mechanic came, and he said, well, he could do it, but it would have to be at his shop. So he hooked up a rope to my ambulance, and with a rope, he towed the ambulance and the trailer through San Felipe to his shop on the north side of town. And we went in there and
what kind of truck was it? Friggin' Toyota?
No, I think it was a Suburban or something.
Really? Nice, even better.
Oh, yeah, it was classic. And so he worked until, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours later, and he says, okay, everything's done, and charged me a couple of $100. And he says, but you got a problem, you got oil in your coolant. And that usually means head gaskets. Yeah. So I'm figuring, oh shit. He says, but I said, well, how much? And he said, well, there's 2 ways. And this was through a translator. Okay, I'm in Mexico. He says you can put sealant in, and that'll cost you $35. No, it's $25 American. And I said, how long will that last? They said, I don't know, a month, 2 months. And I figured, a month, 2 months, I'm in the middle of nowhere in Baja, not a good idea. I said, so how much to do the head gaskets? And he said, $800 US, which seems like a pretty good deal. So I said, okay, I'll bring it back the next day. So I went out to my friend's place where I was camped for the night, and the next morning I drove back to his place, and damned if the vehicle started undercooling. It was really weird. The heat gauge went right down to 0, and it was... Anyway, they got in and they started tearing my ambulance apart, and as I'm watching them, I'm getting more and more nervous. And then another guy, the guy that I had been talking to on roadside assistance, he identified my ambulance and started talking to him, and he said, well, this mechanic, he's a good tire fixer, but to be tearing apart an engine...
Mechanic he is not.
Yeah, he's not. So I was watching, and I was figuring, oh, geez, and then I just got really nervous and pulled the pin on him and took it over and ended up at Rodolfo. By this time, the ambulance is a basket case. The whole front end, everything that's under the hood. And believe it or not, this so-called mechanic said, gee, we didn't even know it was an 8.
Crazy.
So to get it back from him with the heads at least milled and everything ready to go, that cost me $1,000 US. So that was like $200 more than the original estimate of $800, and we weren't even halfway done.
Mm-hmm.
So I got it over to the other guy, and they did the work in pretty good, timely fashion. And I watched the mechanic, and he really knew his stuff and everything. But that ended up all told costing me about $3,500. So about
For your
40.
head gasket?
Yeah, to get the head and get it done.
Crazy.
And then we found all sorts of things that the original mechanic had screwed up when he was
doing the thermostat or
when he
whatever.
was taking. Oh well, I found out he hadn't even put a thermostat in.
That's why it was undercooling, because it
Yeah,
wouldn't even.
yeah. So this was just. But he screwed up my air compressor for the ARB diff lock. Anything. Anyway, it
So
was quite the adventure.
we got a comment from the off-road camper. He's talking about ambulances. Rocky wish he had fine 4x4 ambulance in his price range, but they've been going way up in price. Well, actually, Jim's is not 4-wheel drive. It's a 2-wheel drive, and he has an air locker normally.
Yeah, I have an ARB airlock.
What kind of engine is it in the Ambo? It's a 6.0 gasoline engine, right?
Yeah, Vortec 6.0 liter gas engine. I'm a little partial to gas over diesel, especially when you're traveling in weird and wonderful places. It's easier to find people, in my opinion, that can do the work. You can't always find qualified diesel mechanics, especially in Baja.
All right, off-road camp. That was from the Dogs box. Thanks for your question. Uh, Off-road camper. Curious if you had any difficulties getting across the Mexican border. I'm hearing all kinds of horror stories about American citizens and also YouTubers. They're stranded in Mexico, can't get back. I haven't heard of anybody being stranded like legit. Have you?
No.
And you cruised over pretty simply. And I got another friend who went and came recently, also from the mainland Mexico,
Yeah.
and he's not having any issues.
I crossed at Algodones, and the reason that I did that was because I knew I could get my FMM pretty easily, which is like your tourist visa. And they took a quick look through, but and it was more out of curiosity. The first guy was just doing sort of, okay, well, I got to do an inspection, so he opened it up, and but then he told his buddies, and the next thing I knew, I had a parade of his buddies that all wanted to take a look at this Sambo because it was
Intriguing. More than
intriguing.
them wanting to harass you or
Yeah,
anything, just intrigued by it.
it's really quite different, and that was it. And then I got my FMM and I hit the road. I had absolutely zero problems, and check stops. A lot of the times, check stops, they'd say inspection, and I'd go to get out of the ambulance, and they'd see I had a prosthetic leg, and they'd, oh no 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 no, that's okay. A couple of times they did do inspections, and the thing you have to do in Mexico if you want to avoid hassles with the various check stops, and you're going to have check stops from the Guardia Nacional, which are the state police, and you're also going to go through military check stops, which is generally will be the Mexican Marines. And the thing you have to remember is these guys are young guys, and they're out standing doing 8-hour shifts or whatever in the hot sun away from home, and what they're doing is not well received. And so after about 6 or 7 hours of getting shit and abuse by various and varied motorists with an attitude, all of a sudden they decide, okay, I'm going to show this guy attitude. And then that gets on to the Facebook posts and everything like that. So what I always did was, the first thing I did, I took my baseball cap off, because so the bill, so they could get a good look at my face. I rolled the windows down before I pulled up to them. A lot of times people pull up to them with the window rolled up, and then the guard has to motion them, and then so I always had it rolled down, and the first thing I would do is walk up to them or drive up. I'd smile and I'd say hola, and all of a sudden they knew, hey, I'm not getting attitude from this guy, and so consequently I didn't get attitude from them, and that's my advice. But I traveled all through Baja, and I got, you'll hear a lot of stories of scams, the police, dishonest police. I had that happen to me once in La Paz on a Saturday afternoon, And La Paz has more four-way stops than you can possibly imagine. They're just like every corner, and nobody comes to a full stop for the four-wheel stops. They all do the California stop. They just roll in. Even the police do it. But this time on a Saturday morning, these two officers saw me and stopped me for for doing that. And they showed me that it was $1,000 fine, and they'd have to take my license and hold it until Monday at the police station. If you're wondering what's going on, Happy's getting more beer out of the cooler.
Trying to.
And it's not working well for us
Jim's,
here.
Jim's blocking me.
Pull it out a little bit.
Yeah, there we go. I tried to do it all nonchalant.
There's nothing can be done nonchalantly in an ambulance. We should know that by now. But anyway,
So,
they wanted 1,000 pesos, which is roughly 50 bucks.
50
bucks US. And I said, okay, fine, write me a ticket and I'll pay you the 1,000 pesos, give me my driver's. Oh, no ticket. They didn't want to write a ticket because then they'd have to give the money to the authorities. So we negotiated and I got it to 500. Now, there's a lot of people here saying, oh, no, you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't succumb to bribery. You're just encouraging them and yada, yada, yada. Now, let me tell you, you're in La Paz, it's Saturday, and you want to hit the road and get to your next stop. And you don't want to sit around for a day and a half until the police station opens on Monday. So you give the guy the 500 pesos. It sounds like 500. Well, that's got to be a lot. Well, that's 25 bucks US. So, yeah. Slap me on the wrist because I encourage this, but nevertheless.
I did the 1960 Dodge ambulance with the original state 6, and it needs a lot of work. I did find a 1960s Dodge Pro Wagon. Is that what that says? Power Wagon.
The one thing on the other comment we didn't get to, if you're an American citizen or a Canadian citizen and you're stranded in Mexico, you're not stranded by the Mexicans because they let you go right through the border. If you're stranded and can't get out of Mexico, it's because they're not allowing you to get into the U.S. And that's because you've got a problem with U.S. Customs. And I did have a slight problem with U.S. Customs. I went in the Nexus line by mistake. And so consequently, I was in the wrong line. And they had two choices. They could have either made me go all the way to the back, or they could just go through a quick search and expedite it quickly. So they did the search, and they did a great job. They were nice. They were friendly. They didn't give me a hassle. They kind of slapped me on the wrist for going on the Nexus line and said, hey, it's a 3 strikes deal and you've got 1 strike. But other than that, it wasn't an issue, and I was on my way inside of about 20 minutes, and not a problem. But what was funny, they took, what did they take from me? They took some cut up oranges. They took an avocado, an overripe avocado, and some other vegetable matter, and they completely ignored 48 cans of Victoria beer and 12 bottles of tequila that were in my liquor cabinet.
And that's what I get to enjoy now.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's the border issues. It's not an issue. It's not a major issue.
From his experience, anyway, like you can't say that, everything's crazy somewhere else or somebody had a different, So yeah, it's all different. But everybody's story different is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like just because he had a great experience doesn't mean some people aren't. Not trying to say that the other people are lying or making a big deal about it. Just it wasn't his experience,
One thing I did manage to do when I was in Mexico is I'm now an official resident of Mexico. So I've actually been accepted by the Mexican government as a resident of Mexico. Got the card and got social security number and got all that sort of stuff. Well, that's good for another story.
Yeah. So the Power Wagon, like those things are cool, those ambos, but man, you're only doing like 50, 55, and it's still hard to find parts, even though, they're cool though. They're definitely cool. The dog's box, it's been a long time since I've been to Mexico, dude. Me too. And for good reason. What's up, Brew? Um, so you left San Felipe, and that's where you got the work done on the rig, right?
Yep.
And then where'd you head to next?
Uh,
You had the shakedown apparently in La
yeah.
Paz area, but
Well, I went to, after I left San Felipe, and I was way behind. Like, my plan had been to be in San Felipe for maybe a week. I've got a friend that lives there, and I was going to be a week in San Felipe, and that would have taken me till about the 24th, 25th of January. Then I would have had the rest of January, all of February, and all of March to do the rest of Baja. But I was stuck in San Felipe getting the engine done on the ambulance and a few other things done. And it was 6 weeks. 1 week became 6 weeks. So I didn't get out of San Felipe until the end of February. So now I only had 1 month to do Baja. So my first stop was Santa Rosarita, which is a little fishing village on the Pacific side. And it's about a day's drive from San Felipe. I mean, I got out of, it's not even a full day. I got out of San Felipe, around noon, and pulled into Rosarita just as it was getting dark, and I sort of found a place to camp in the town. And then the next morning, I went and found camping out on the beach.
so no issues other than your well, that's a major issue, your motor.
Yeah.
But once you left San Felipe, no real issues after that.
Not
Because I noticed you're missing a light or two.
I'll get to that. But we did have the only issue in Rosarita, or Santa Rosarita. If you go out, you drive through town and you end up out heading on the beach out of town, and there's a little rickety sign saying private property, camping $10 a night. So I went and I camped on the beach, and nothing happened the first day. And the second day or so, the guy comes around and he says, "You're on private property. It's $10." I said, "No, that's not private property. The beaches are owned by the government, and they're public. And this is in the Mexican Constitution, and not a lot of people know that, but it's true." And he says, "Well, you came across on a private road on private property." And I said, I said, "It's illegal in Mexico to charge for access to a public beach." And he said, "Oh." He says, "Well, the money goes for cleaning up and for waste, basura, which are garbage cans."
Basura.
I said, "There's no garbage cans on the beach. There's no facilities. There's no restrooms. There's nothing. So no, there's no pay." So he said, "I get the police." I said, "Fine. You go get the police and bring them back. And if they tell me I have to pay you, I'll pay you." Well, he knew if he went to the police and complained because I wouldn't pay for using a public beach, that he'd be the one that would get arrested. So stand your ground when these guys come. It's one thing if you go to a campground, say like Playa Coyote, which is south of Mulegé. It's one thing to go and pay there because they've got facilities.
An established campground,
Yeah,
not just somebody letting you, trying to hustle you, basically.
Yeah, so that was it in Santa Rosarita, and then my next stop was Guerrero Negro, where I overnighted in a vacant lot. That was good. The next day, I'm heading out of Guerrero Negro, and I got 45 kilometers, and the wheel fell off the trailer for the third time. And this was, so there I am. At least this
is it the same wheel?
The same wheel. So
Dang.
At least it's daylight. And next thing I know, there's two Guardia Nacional cars pulled up. These are the policemen.
The federales?
Yeah. Spoke less English than I speak Spanish, but their job was to get me off the highway, and these highways are not narrow. So they called and got a mobile mechanic to come, and the guy came and he got me fixed up so I could drive. And I went back to Guerrero Negro. Then I called my mechanic, the guy that had worked on the ambulance, and he's also a trailer mechanic. His name is Rodolfo Romo. And 2 days later, he was in Guerrero Negro with a new axle and everything, and away we went. And the wheel has not fallen off the trailer since.
So what was the problem? So he the one that replaced the axle
Mhm. Yeah.
and it fell off again. Did he say
No, not
why?
with no, not once when the axle was replaced. No, it
Okay.
was all the problems with the axle was with the torsion bar, and a torsion bar axle on a trailer is just not sufficient. The roads in Mexico are pretty rough, and they got hit with a hurricane a couple of years ago, and the roads got wiped out. And the roads, the thing you have to remember in Baja, there's no north-south railway, so all goods between in Baja are travel on the highway, and there's only one highway,
Yeah.
so the roads get pounded.
Yeah. So the off-road camper, he said that when he was a kid, he used to go to Baja for motorsports events with his parents every year. It's been about 10, since he was about 10 years old. He'd be curious of more details about becoming a resident of Mexico. And then the dog's box said my buddy won't have a single axle because of that kind of thing. Yeah, dude, any trailer that I buy, I try to find a dual axle trailer. I know it's harder to find sometimes, but that's usually what I run. I had the same experience traveling before and having that the only tire you have explode and blow the fender off and stuff. So unless it's just a small trailer like running around town or something, I try not to have a single axle. Um, but yeah, it sounds like Jim's got it figured out now, though, dialed in. So what about becoming a resident of Mexico? So you kind of found a loophole. Somebody helped you out with that, right?
Yeah, I I got helped out on this. There's the main way that people become residents of Mexico is they have to they apply in a consulate. Like, so if you're a Canadian, you'd go to the Mexican consulate in Canada. If you're American, you'd go to Mexican consulate in any of a number of cities and towns in America. Some of which are easy and some of which are hard. I've heard of people like in some towns in California, I think it was Santa Clara, they're very difficult. On the other hand, Boise, Idaho is supposed to be very simple, very easy. And so what you have to do is you have to prove solvency, and or if you're the parent of a child that's a Mexican citizen, you can get in on this family thing. Also, if you're married to a Mexican citizen, but that doesn't always work. And so what they had, and I heard about it. I met a guy when I was in the shop getting the ambulance done, and he told me about this amnesty program, and it was established during the COVID years. Because during COVID, a lot of people, American and Canadian citizens, were stuck in Mexico. Their FMMs run out and they couldn't get out. They couldn't drive across the border to go home, and they couldn't fly out. They just couldn't. There was no way of transporting. So Mexico came up with this amnesty program, and if you were a regular or frequent traveler to Mexico and were stuck with an expired FMM, you could apply for temporary residency, for a 4-year temporary residency. And that program kept getting extended. And so the end of March, when I heard about, oh, the end of February when I heard about it, uh, I went to this woman, Prayer Desert Realty in San Felipe. She had been referred to me, and she said she could help me out. She could do all the paperwork, schedule the appointments, do all the stick handling for $600 American. Or I could try to do it myself, I guess, if I wanted to. And then she said the Mexican government, there are some administrative fees and everything, and a fine for having an expired FMM. And she said that'll cost you probably about another 1,000 to 1,200.
Mexican
Yeah, thousand, no,
pesos,
U.S.
U.S. So you're
U.S.
looking at $1,600 now.
About that, yeah. And she said, but you need an expired FMM. So I looked at my FMM and I said, well, it doesn't expire until the middle of June of this year, so I'm not going to stick around till then. She says, well, no, just go up to the border and tell them that you want a 7-day FMM, and it doesn't cost you anything. And I said, really? So I drove up, rode my trike up to Mexicali, and I went in and told the guy I wanted a 7-day FMM. I didn't tell him I had already had one. So he takes my passport and he calls me up on the computer and he looks and he kind of laughed to himself. And I said, oh, yeah, that's him realizing that I've got a, a current FMM. The thing is, it doesn't matter because as soon as you get the 7-day issued, it supersedes, it cancels out the first one. So it's not, you're not doing anything illegal. So he just did it. And he just looked, he knew, and he just gave me it.
Here you go, you big dummy.
7 days later, Kelly and I had an appointment at the immigration office in.
He probably
San
didn't know
Felipe.
that we had this loophole and we're gonna be stuck, and he's kind of
No.
laughing to himself like he's getting this short one and his is still good. I'm gonna give it to him anyway.
Yeah. So 7 days later, we went in, and Kelly said, "You don't have to do a thing. There'll be no interview. You won't have to talk to anybody. You just sit down and just be quiet, and I'll do everything." Which she did. And then there was a glitch. So she said, "Well, we got to go back to the office because the government had changed the little clause, and because she's best friends with the ladies that work the immigration office, and they were going through my application with a fine-tooth comb, which you wouldn't get if you tried to do the application yourself." They picked up this problem. We went back to Kelly's office. Kelly rectified it. Took it there 2 days. 2 weeks later, I had my card was ready to pick up. I picked it up at the end of March. Just went in and got fingerprinted, photographed, and given a social security number, and that's it. But that loophole has now been closed. It's no longer available.
So the Dogs Box would like to know, Dogs Box, what advantage would there be in having a Mexican residency if you're not even stay as long as your FMM?
Well, I'll be going back to Mexico every year. That was my intention anyway. Um, an FMM's not all that expensive. It's about $40 US to get a 6-month FMM. It's not a major problem. It's a little bit of a hassle at the border to make sure you get it, but it's not a big deal. The main thing about being a resident is I have a social security number. So that means I get certain benefits. One of which is I can get medical health insurance, Mexican medical health insurance. And travel insurance for someone my age is getting prohibitively expensive. But now I don't need it. I can take my chances crossing America, where healthcare is very expensive, but I'll take my chances. And once I'm in Mexico, I can get medical care quite inexpensively, so there's that. I qualify to get the Mexican Senior Citizens Card, which gets me massive discounts on a whole bunch of things. And I'll get better treatment at the check stops because now when I get stopped, if they ask for ID, I don't give them my passport. I give them my Mexican residency card, and that gets me brownie points. So I think in the long term, and my temporary residency is good for 4 years, and at the end of the 4th year, if I haven't broken any laws or stepped on any toes or done anything wrong, I will then just apply for permanent residency, and it's pretty much rubber stamped. So in 4 years, I'll be a permanent resident.
Yeah, and then so are you able to buy property and stuff like that after you become a permanent resident?
Not as a permanent resident. You have to be a citizen. Well, I can buy property in Mexico. I just can't, as if you're not a citizen, you're not supposed to be allowed to buy property within 50 miles of the border or the coast. But if you can form a Mexican corporation, and the Mexican corporation can have shareholders that aren't Mexican, so it's another loophole.
Yeah, so like so the dog's box says sensible. Thank you for the answer, by the way.
Yeah.
But so that's cool too because you can get the corporation and um you can find a piece of property like beachfront property and you and a couple of friends can go in on it. And even though you're American, you guys can own it. You know what I mean? Instead of having to go through and I guess really there's no way other to do it unless you married like a Mexican girl there or something like that.
Which is not necessarily a good idea.
Yeah. Well, maybe I don't know if you like her and she makes you tamales.
That's
But
when
yeah,
that's when you can really notice some cultural differences
yeah,
when you
uh,
get that close. But
yeah, right. And then so anyway, you she where was she at that she helped you get your residency? What
this
town?
San Felipe.
San Felipe. Okay, and then so you left San Felipe and your tire came off again.
Yeah. And so back to Guerrero Negro, and then it got fixed, and that was pretty much the end of any serious mechanical problems, except for I sprung another leak in the water tank.
The water tank. That's right.
Yeah. And then I had issues with the trike because for some reason it wouldn't hold a charge in the battery. So
Which is still unresolved to this day.
still unresolved, yeah.
Um,
So
and then the missing lights.
um well, the one light on the passenger side, that was kind of weird. It would just shake loose and it would just be hanging from the wires, and I'd go out every time I stopped for whatever reason. Uh, Call of nature, anything. I'd always do a walk around. This is a good thing when you're in Mexico. You can't. There's not a lot of pullovers. So if for any reason you stop and you're pulled over, I recommend do a walk around to your rig. I've got this big old cane that I use, and I go and I just knock on all my tires and I make sure everything's good and everything like that. And so I'd be walking around and there that damned light would be hanging out. The other one on the driver's side,
Was perfect the
it
whole
was
time.
perfect. It never ever had shaken loose or anything. So finally, I got some green masking tape and I taped the one in the passenger side in, and it held, and everything was good. So I get across the border and I'm driving from Yuma to Scottsdale on what's that?
Interstate 10?
10, I guess. No, the one further south. Not
8.
8.
8,
I was
sorry,
on
yeah.
8 on an interstate, and I pulled over at a rest stop and did my walk around, and down at the signal light on the driver's side, the whole thing was missing. It had all fallen out. And I think what happened, this goes back to that original mechanic when they was pulling the front end out, they didn't undo the clips properly and screwed it up. So God knows how much that's going to cost me when I get back home.
I was laughing so much because I was like, hey, you're right. Like, and he's like, interesting story. Never came loose the whole time. But how far south did you end up going? Did you make it?
I I had no intention of going all the way to the tip. I'm not an all-inclusive resort type person, so Cabo and San Jose del Cabo have no real appeal to me. Uh, I like Todos Santos.
Yeah,
No,
Todos Santos. I have a few friends there, and just so some of you guys know, I just want you guys to know that like there's a lot of people who are living van life or whatever rig they're in, and they constantly go to Todos Santos. I have a friend who's bought a lot of property there. He has quite a bit more money than the average person, so he's living a good life and he's an amazing person. And that to me, like to have money and to be a dick, like you're a dick, even if you're poor and you're a dick. But to have money and be such a kind, genuine person like he is, that's amazing. You know, he's so welcoming and stuff. But there's other people who are not as wealthy and they're teaming up with a couple other van lifers and they're buying property like in Todos Santos and other places and stuff like that. So I just wanted to throw that out there that like Baja's different than mainland Mexico. You don't have a lot to worry like you do in mainland Mexico with like people are really worried about cartel and stuff like that and other things, you know, and anywhere you go, I just want to say, like, make sure you just mind your own business. You go out there and act like an idiot, you're gonna find bad stuff wherever you go. It doesn't matter if you come here, you know what I mean? But anyway, how far south did you make it?
I made it to Los Barriles, but that was just on a quick trip. I was the furthest that I camped was Playa Tecolote, which is just outside of La Paz. You go out past the ferry terminal to the mainland, and you keep going, and you get right to the tip. It's Playa Tecolote. It's a beautiful off-grid beach. There's no services in there. There's restaurants and bars and free camping. The restaurants and bars are all solar and cell service, and it's a fantastic place. But once again, it's a place you're a guest and you share it with Mexican families. They come out to their after work. They'll come out and have a picnic, family events. On the weekends, it's busy with young local people coming out and enjoying the ocean. And you have to realize that you're a guest, and this is their home. But
Kind of reminds me of like
people are
San
wonderful.
Diego or Hawaii or someplace.
Yeah, I've never
Like,
been.
people are going to those places, but on the weekends, you got to realize that locals want to go have fun and enjoy their
Yeah,
spot too. So if you give them that time and be respectful that it's their home, you won't have any issues.
Mexicans are very giving people. They're very social. They're very friendly. They're very family oriented. You show them respect, and they will show you respect.
Exactly.
Um, I, I I I I always say Mexicans are genetically coded. If you smile at them, they have no choice but to smile back at you. And um,
And it was cool to hear Jim say also that, some people are like, hey, don't, this place is cool, but don't go out late at night by yourself. And he was out riding his motorcycle in the middle of the night, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
got lost a couple times and he's still here. So that's good.
yeah,
We got a couple more comments. Um, the dog's box, he said, sensible. Thank you for the answer. I think I already read that one.
yeah.
And then Off Road Camper says, interesting info. Cost of living is getting outrageous here in the West Coast. Yeah, he's up in Oregon, so it's getting really bad up there. So you may actually look into going down next winter, going down to Baja. So find a caravan of people. There's all kinds of people going all the time. I'm gonna try to make it up to Descent on Bend this year, and if you're there, we'll hook up. And just there's always a caravan that's gonna be heading down south, so make sure you keep an eye out for those kind of people. And
And
then
the cost of living in Mexico, the thing the only thing that's expensive is gasoline, and gasoline is pretty much the same as what it is in California. So it's considerably more than Arizona. It's it's all about what we're paying in Canada or so. But food, fresh food, vegetables, everything like that, very, very reasonably priced. See, if you like seafood, uh, you can get fish incredibly cheap. I bought a mackerel off the fisherman for 240 pesos,
holy
and
mackerel.
and I not a mackerel, a halibut, and I cut that up into 10 meals. So that's basically 24 pesos a meal, which is about uh, $2 or something like that. Yeah. So that's pretty good. Shrimp, you can get shrimp just about on every street corner, and it's cheap. So yeah, you can live quite cheaply.
And then okay, and then so Off Road Camper was saying stator or a short in the wire. And then the dog's box responded. I think he's saying that it won't hold the charge, so maybe some kind of parasitic draw. Yeah, I think that's more of
Yeah.
the reality is it is charging while he's riding because he's able to restart it and stuff like that. So it's charging, but it's dying over a short period of time. So there is some odd parasitic draw in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But you're gonna get it checked out. You're headed back to Canada soon, yeah?
Yeah. Well, the fellow that did the ambulance, Jeff Schmoed at Polar Mobility, he's a whiz bang mobile electrician.
Whiz bang.
Oh yeah.
What that is? Whiz bang. What
He's-
that is?
He is. He just has a feel for electricity, and he's done the wiring on a lot of bikes.
I don't like the feel electricity.
Yeah.
That's like
Anyway, I'll be taking it to him and getting Jeff to take a look at it. Oh, you want that little sample?
Poquito más, por favor.
Oh, I guess.
I'll give you a Pepsi. Oh wait, no, you're supposed to say that for me to wash your windows. Oh, you know what I want to show them, Jim? Which is kind of again me mooching off of you. Canadian crack.
Oh yeah.
Whoa, we just polished off the bottle.
We'll have to get another one out.
The 7 leagues.
What I call Canadian crack is, well, you might have to go outside to get at it.
Cheerio, mate. Cheerio. So, tell them after you started coming back, did you have any issues or anything like that after you left? Or was it pretty smooth sailing other than losing your light?
Yeah, other than losing the lights, it's been fairly
So you had to get it dialed in Mexico?
Yeah, no, everything seems to be working fairly well. Of course, I got another big long journey ahead of me. We're leaving Chino Valley on Monday. We're going to go, Happy and I are going for a motorcycle ride tomorrow, going up to Jerome. And then Monday I head back. I got to get back to Canada. I got to, because it's election day. And I'm not overly impressed with our current government. And so I have to make sure that I at least get back to Canada so I can vote. And voting at least gives me the right to bitch and complain about the government for the next 4 years.
All right.
There we go.
So
This is what I call Canadian crack. And Canadians will know exactly what I mean. These are cheesies.
basically Cheetos, what we call Cheetos.
On steroids.
Yeah, but they're made with real cheese. The list of ingredients is a lot smaller than the one in America on Cheetos.
Is it?
Yeah, a lot smaller. I mean, there's so many words you can't pronounce in the American ones. And I'm like, what is this tetrahydrochloromethylethyl bad shit?
Yeah, if you can't pronounce it,
Yeah.
you shouldn't eat it.
Too much of it. So Jim got back here. Well, it's been about a week or so, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about a week or so.
Right after Bike Week.
Yeah. So yeah, I went to Bike Week. I have some video on that I need to get edited and posted. Arizona Bike Week's kind of a big deal here, and you know, there's a lot of cool stuff there. Went there and got a little video. I'm glad I went when I went. I went during the day, and it's not real busy during the day, which is amazing, especially like right when it opens, you know. It's pretty slow. And that's when I went because I wanted to run around and just get some video for you guys. And then there's a lot of rides and stuff like that in between, and then people there's concerts at night too.
Yeah, nothing that I really wanted to go and see particularly. Well,
Five Finger Death Punch was supposed to be there, but I guess they backed out and Marilyn Manson took their place. But you know, that would have been a cool one to see.
The only band that was there, well, I've seen Five Finger Death Punch at Sturgis, but they're not my style. Another band I saw, I didn't see them at Sturgis, so they're there a lot, is Jackal. And they were, I actually saw them in Milwaukee at the Harley Davidson 120th anniversary, 115th anniversary. And I wouldn't mind seeing them again. They put on a good show, but I missed them. Yeah, but it was good. Mainly, it got in some good rides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I went to go find Jim there. I walked like a mile underneath the desert sun, sweating. Just to find out there's no entrance the way I went. Then I had to walk a mile all the way back. And I was like, Jim, I ain't going to see you today, brother. Goodbye. Turns out he wasn't even there. He's out on a ride, ripping his trike. Bye-bye. So, he's actually from the same place as our friend Phil down the mob. Calgary, Alberta.
Yep. Though,
And, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
I've been there a lot longer than he has.
Yeah, right? How old was he when he left? He left young, right? Or was he even born here?
No, he was born in Calgary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
His uncle runs a big building supply.
Yeah, I want to say it was like, maybe he was like 8, maybe something like that. I don't know. I don't remember. But tomorrow, also today, Jim went on a pretty hell of a ride.
Yeah, epic ride. I rode from Chino Valley to Wickenburg, and I went through Iron Springs and Skull Valley, and
Kirkland, Peoples Valley, Yarnell. You went through Yarnell, where we had the big wildfires.
The highlight of the trip was Kirkland, because there's a bar there, and it's
That's the highlight, 'cause there's a bar.
It's an incredible bar. The bar's got a history. It used to be a brothel,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a room there that's the original Madam's room a room where she actually got murdered, and the current building is all made out of concrete, and the reason
It's like 18-inch thick concrete too. Yeah. It's not just like concrete. It's like concrete
with rebar.
Yeah.
Evidently, I think
in
1922, the prostitutes burnt down the brothel, and it had to be rebuilt. And it took them a year. They rebuilt it, and I guess it reopened in 1923. And I think it was owned by Chinese people.
That's racist.
So they were determined, and the reason because the current owner mentioned it was Chinese people. So when they rebuilt it out of concrete, so they would never ever get burnt out again. And this thing has been owned by a couple, Herb and Barb, I believe, are their names, and they've had it up for sale for 20 years or more.
So it's crazy because I remember when that thing was for sale, like, I want to guess probably 10 years ago. It was like $750,000. Then like 8 or 9 years ago, it was like $1 million. Then all of a sudden it was for sale again, but for like $2 million, and then it sold. I'm like, wait, what price did they pay though? I mean, that's none of our business, and we don't know, but it just made me wonder, like.
So anyway, 2 years ago, I was down in here, and this was the first time I met Happy. I met him 2 years ago in Quartzsite. And then after Quartzsite, I was driving around in this area. I ended up in Kirkland, and I went into the bar, and I talked to Barb, who was the owner at the time. So my ride today took me through Kirkland. I looked and says, oh, son of a gun, there's the bar. I got to go in. So I parked the trike, and I went in. And it wasn't an old lady behind the bar. It was a young woman. And I walked up, and she says, our selection is limited. We just reopened an hour ago. I says, what? And she said, we just bought the bar. And they literally closed the sale of the bar the day before, and this was the first day. This wasn't even officially their official opening. Their official opening was Wednesday.
Nice.
But
what'd you drink there?
I had Modelo Especial.
It's the first time, right? You ever had it?
First time, yeah. But they got big plans for the bar. They're going to reopen the restaurant. They're going to have entertainment. They're going to have all sorts of neat stuff there. and her name is Candy. So literally,
Dulcita.
Kirkland now has a candy bar. And her partner, probably husband, is a guy by the name of Charles. Nice people. I hope they do well. Any of you that are in the Prescott, uh, Wickenburg, Phoenix area, y'all, if you're riders, y'all know where Kirkland is because it's on the best riding road ever anywhere. And so go to Kirkland and go in and patronize these guys because they're gonna get that bar all nicely fixed up and
Do some good things with it,
Gonna be
hopefully.
a biker bar. It's gonna be a good place. And I'm gonna be going there next year when I'm back. So
Yeah, buddy.
might see you there.
The dog's box. Yeah, we can check the county assessors. That's right. So tomorrow, so Jim had a really good ride today, and he came back up. So he took the kind of a chill, nice route out there, but on the way back, he came up through we call it the Spars. It's White Spar Road. Bunch of switchbacks, man. You go on there and you see the freaking people on their crotch rockets, and even Harley's just freaking ripping that road because they love it because of all the turns and stuff. I mean, it's an amazing ride, and right now it's like perfect, huh?
Oh, yes.
Because the
It's great.
sun's shining, and then it snowed yesterday, oddly enough, right? And then, but it melts pretty quick. You know, you'll have some areas that still have some snow, but the roads are pretty clear. And with the warmth and stuff like that, you go through there, you'll get warm with your leathers. Then you'll get into a shady spot and be like, whew, that's nice. Then you'll get into sun and warm up again, you know? It's a really cool ride. A lot of people do it. So if you guys ride motorcycles or even want to drive it, it's a cool drive.
Oh, it's incredible. And when I got back here, I told Happy, I said, well, North Carolina might have the
Tail of the dragon.
the tail of the dragon, but I said Arizona's got the sidewinder. But I think this stretch of road should be named after Arizona's state reptile, the rattlesnake.
Yeah.
It definitely should be, and you should call that the sidewinder because that's exactly what you're doing. You wind that your bike out there and you just almost go sideways.
Yeah.
And it's something else. And I don't know how many curves are supposed to be on the tail of the dragon and how much distance, but this thing is only what? I think there's only about 10 miles or so, isn't it? It's not very long.
No, it's not. And there's a shit ton. I mean, there really is.
The curves are so tight that when at the bottom there's a sign saying if you got if your rig is more than 40 feet long, you got to turn around and go back because there's no way that if you got anything longer than 40 feet that you're going to be able to navigate some of these corners.
Which is similar to the Tail of the Dragon. Have you been on that?
No.
I did it for the first time. So like 2022 and 23 were like I got to go to the East Coast on both those years for the first time in my life. And it was amazing. And I got to do the Tail of the Dragon in a Mini Cooper during a rally with a friend of mine. It was crazy. He's like, no, we got it. And I'm like, oh, God. So I did a video on that. You guys should check it out.
Have you? Oh, you did. I'll have to go check that out. Well, no. What would you be? How would you compare the spars to, or as I call it?
It's close to that. I think it's like 62 turns in like 30 miles or something is what the Tail of the Dragon is, or something like that. I have the sticker on the back of my ambo actually. So I'll check it out. I'll actually, you know what? I'll post it a link in the description so you guys can check it out if you ever want to go to the East Coast and do it. And then I will also look up how many there is on the spars and put that on there. But tomorrow we're gonna go for a little bike ride in the afternoon, and we're gonna go up to Jerome. So to me, the coolest routes to go to Jerome are up Highway 89A, which is the backside of like Prescott Valley. And that takes you up Mingus Mountain, and it's similar to the spars. Like it's a favorite for crotch rockets and motorcyclists just to go back and hit all those turns and stuff like that. And I'm gonna take my Harley. He'll be on his trike, just so you guys don't get it twisted. I'm not riding on the back of his trike. I ride on the handlebars because he's got pegs. But no, so we're gonna do that. Head up to Jerome, maybe have a beverage. Maybe we'll come back. Maybe we'll drive down through Cottonwood and then come back that way. You don't know. We'll figure it out. It'll be a good time regardless. But the other cool way is to go through Chino Valley. There's a back way up there and it's all dirt.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. It's awesome though. It takes about an hour and a half. And if you go from here all paved, it takes about an hour and 20 minutes. So it's like 10 minutes longer to go the scenic dirt road, but we won't do it on our Harleys. But
No.
if we're ever in a car or something, especially with the rain, that mud up there, it gets kind of like caliche. So like we were up there in a 4Runner with really aggressive tread tires after the snow was melting, and we hit that like wet clay, and it was like, oh god, just sliding toward the no guardrails, I mean sheer drops, you know what I mean? So it's scary. I don't recommend doing it if you're not like in a legit crawler or something when it's been raining and muddy.
Well, maybe when it's dry, we should take the ambulances up that way.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, when it's dry. And what I like about it is there's a lot of boondocking area out there, so we can just go out there and park and make it like a 2-day trip.
Set up the tequila bar and the grill, and
Might be a 3-day trip then. You need one recovery day. So, anyway, I think that's about it. Jim, I hope you have a safe travels. I'm gonna be sad to see you go. It's been great.
I'll be back.
Yeah,
I'll be back.
I can't wait, man. Are you gonna be in the new trike when you come back?
Hopefully, yeah. It's supposed to be ready when I get back to Calgary. And so the new trike, what I'm riding now is a 2015 freewheeler.
It's copper, right?
Burnt whiskey amber.
Burnt.
It's orange. It's
Yeah.
orange, and that's got, I think, what is it? The 103 engine,
Okay.
I think is what it is. So the trike that I'm having built for me, and it's been a 2-year project. We started with the 2018 Heritage Softail with the 114 Milwaukee 8 engine in it. And so we took off the rear wheel and we put a Frankenstein rear axle kit on it. It's all made out of billet aluminum. It's a work of art. And a pingle shifter and a mechanical reverse instead of the electric reverse that I've got in the freewheeler. Bassani 2-into-1 exhaust. Wheelsmith chrome wire spoked rear wheels with baby moons.
For real?
Oh, for real, and wide white walls. And
Instant street cred.
the absolute classic part of it is my builder found an OEM 1947 Harley Davidson service car box to put on it. So this
Straight up
trike,
World War II service box.
right out of World War II. So it's a steel box. It's not fiberglass or plastic. It's
Do you have a sneak peek picture of it? I know you showed me one at one time.
oh
That thing's gonna be so sick with the M8 motor too.
yeah.
Dang.
Let's see if we can find something.
I'd like to so I have right now my Harley's 1997 Harley Dyna convertible. It's got like 63,000 miles. Like, dude, it runs so good though. It's like an amazing bike. I love it. But I have a friend who's putting together one that I've had forever. It's a 1986 FXR. Like, it's my favorite bike ever. I've had it for like 15 years now, and I'll never get rid of it. But it's never been put together right. Okay, here's a sneak peek. So now I can quit talking. Go closer. Go there. Look at that thing. Go to the left a little bit. Camera's right up by right here. Look at that thing.
Yeah.
That's sweet. That thing's gonna be so cool. You got a picture of the box?
Oh, yeah.
Woo, look at that M8 motor.
Yeah, here's the M8 with the Bassani 2-into-1.
Dude, that thing is gonna be nasty. Miss Janet, if you're nasty. Oh no, Miss Jackson, if you're nasty. That's right.
Where am I here? Done.
There it is. Look at this thing. This thing is sweet. Hold it up this way. Right here. Bam. Look at that. That thing's freaking awesome. So
Yeah.
hopefully you'll be cruising that sucker next time you come down.
Hopefully, yep.
That's gonna be cool, man.
Yeah, that's going to be my pride and joy. I'm calling it Orca.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because it's black and white?
Because it's black and white.
The killer whale.
Yeah, Orca. So it'll be part of my stable. I call the ambulance Oso, and Oso the Bear Ambo. And the reason I call it that is because she was built at Polar Mobility, and their symbol is a polar bear. So, and they call Jeff the Big Bear at Polar. So it's also the Bear Ambo, and the trike will be Orca. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, Jim, thank you for coming and staying with me and
It's been a blast.
sharing everything. And I've had so much fun with you. I hope we have a good ride tomorrow. And let's do a little cheers to some tequila. Thank you guys for coming and checking out the live. I appreciate all the comments and the info that Jim has shared. Hold on.
Or as we say,
Nice.
nick, 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 nick.
So if you guys want to follow his channel or follow him on Instagram or Facebook, he has a group page on there too. And he'll be doing some good stuff. And don't forget, Canadian crack. It smells so good. All right, we'll see you guys. Have a good one.
All right.